Okay, this right here is our review of scientific notation. And there's a couple of terms that we have to be familiar with to really understand what scientific notation is all about. First, we have the coefficient. The coefficient is the first number in our scientific notation, and it must be greater than or equal to 1, but it is not bigger than 10. It has to be less than 10. Okay, so up here we have our coefficient. This is just an example as 1.54. The second thing in scientific notation is the multiplication. If you notice right here, scientific notation, you're always multiplying. And you're always multiplying by a base of 10. Okay, so that is our second number in scientific notation. Just as we learned with exponents, okay, the base is our big number, and that is always, like I said, 10. Okay, and the exponent is right up here. That's the little number, and that can be also referred to as the power of. Okay, so if you look at this example of scientific notation, this is how it is usually written. Okay, you have your coefficient, you have the multiplication, you have your base 10, and an exponent. Now these two numbers, the coefficient and the exponent, will always be different. It'll always be some different number. But the things that remain the same are the multiplication and your base. Those two things remain the same. The exponent and the coefficient will change. So let's talk about how to format scientific notation. All right, so step 1 in scientific notation. Remember, the purpose of scientific notation is we have these really, really big numbers, and we want to find a way to write them so that they're not so big. It's kind of like a shorthand of writing really big numbers. So step 1 is to put the decimal after the first digit of the number. So let's say we were given this number, this really big number up here, okay? And we just kind of rewrote it down here. And your first step is to put that decimal right after that first number. So after the 1. The 1 is our first number, so we're going to put that decimal right there. Okay? Step 2 of scientific notation is to find the exponent. And you're going to find the exponent by counting the number of places from the decimal to the end of the number. So please be very careful when in your counting. We're going to start here where our decimal is, and we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It took us 11 counts to get to the end, and I would suggest writing that number to the side somewhere so you do not forget it. As you see here, they kind of wrote it at the bottom. You don't need to write down every count, just the end number, how many times it took you to get to the end. Finally, step 3 in scientific notation is you're dropping the zeros, and we want to get that coefficient, that first number. We're going to multiply it by the base, which is always 10. I told you guys that will never change. And it will include the exponent that you found in step 2. So here we go. This is scientific notation. We drop all these zeros, so we're left with 1.72. That becomes our coefficient. We are multiplying, always multiplying, by base 10. Okay, remember, these two things stay the same. And our exponent is the number of times it took us to get to the end of the number. Okay? So that is our exponent. And that is how you find scientific notation. Okay, real quick, I'm going to go over just a couple of examples here. So in step 1 here, I have a really big number. Okay, this number right up here. And I'm just going to write the number out. It has 9 zeros. Step 1 is to place the decimal after the very first digit in your number. I would suggest not putting in commas because it might mess you up in your count. Okay, step 2 is to take this number, so we have 1.95, and I believe there's 9 zeros. Okay, and I'm going to count how many times it takes me to move my decimal to the end of the number. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let me just check that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so like I said, write it up here so you do not forget it. Took me 11 counts. So what I do is now I drop the zeros and I write my coefficient, 1.95, my coefficient, multiplied by base 10 always, and I take what I got, my exponent, 11 counts, and that would be my scientific notation. And then really quickly, let me try to find another one here. I'll do this one, 72,000. Okay, step 1 is to write the number and put the decimal after the very first number. Step 3 is my counting step. And we're going to move that decimal, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 counts to get to the end. So now I drop my zeros. My coefficient is 7.2, whatever's left up here, times 10, always stays the same, and then my exponent is 4.